So as previously mentioned in my Bumblebee review, I'm absolutely smitten with the War for Cybertron games, and the subsequent toy lines they produced. As much as I think that every single of the 4 War for Cybertron toys were absolute bangers through and through, the same can hardly be said for the follow-up game, Fall of Cybertron. Today I thought it would be fun to take a look at the Optimus toys from each game, to showcase the differences between the lines, and frankly, because I want an excuse to talk about War for Cybertron again. So let's just jump right in. Let's start by looking at the OG Prime from War for Cybertron. Get a load of this guy. Every inch of him just exudes this authoritative presence. This is the physique of a leader. Now it's important to note that this fiery axe doesn't actually come with this figure. It actually comes from Generations Orion packs, but I think it's more fitting to give to this guy so he stands holding it on my shelf. Other than that, Prime comes with this interesting spring-loaded gun. I'm not exactly sure why he needs this submachine gun to spring and compact down, but it's damn cool. This figure continues the WFC trend of flipping design conventions on their head. Where Optimus' smokestacks are usually on his shoulders, in this design they've decided to run them along his legs. I just love how complex his look is. There's lots of amazing painted and sculpted detail, like the pink squares on his waist or his greebly abs. Even his face just looks so sharp and detailed. This entire design is curvy and filled with vertexes, like the chest, which comes to a pleasing point right in the center. In fact, I think it almost makes the leap into being too busy. It can be hard to find one focal point to look at. Something we'll see is very different on the other Prime. My last point of consideration is the amount of kibble this guy has. I suppose there was no way to pull it off at this size class, but I really wish there was a way to shrink that enormous windshield backpack. I would have gladly sacrificed a pink painted square or two if it meant we could get an extra hinge on the backpack. I can custom paint a figure, I can't custom add plastic to it. For some size comparisons, here's War for Cybertron Megatron, War for Cybertron being Cliffjumper, Fall of Cybertron Shockwave, and Generations Orion packs. Transformation is another area where this figure shines. I agree with fellow reviewer Thu Adams when I say that this figure was most likely originally meant to be a Voyager figure. The engineering is just so satisfyingly complex, but it's not so finicky that it's frustrating. Overall, I'd say this transformation is an 8 out of 10. Vehicle mode is absolutely stellar. This makes me feel some type of way, if you get what I mean. So Prime here turns into a sort of Cybertruck fusion SUV cruiser vehicle. One thing I love is just how alien they managed to get this thing to look. There's no windshield, but it still packs that iconic truck grille. I also love how those smokestacks angle back diagonally. It really serves to make the truck look dynamic and alive. Once again, the amazing strength of WFC, vehicles that seem lived in and real. Stellar truck mode. Makes me goddamn squeal with joy when I see it. 10 out of 10. Size comparisons, Megs, being Cliffy, Shockwave, and packs. Now it's time to look at Prime number 2. Prime 2, if you will. Right away, the difference is almost night and day. Where Prime was slick and curvy with agile points and movement, Prime 2 is firm and blocky, with hard edges to convey a sense of force. I love the way his shoulders ride up above his head. It creates an amazing silhouette. I also like how his legs have more explicitly visible wheels. It really does make him feel like he actually, turns into a truck, which is pretty vital to the design philosophy of Transformers in general. I will say that I really am not a fan of his head sculpt. I can see what they were going for with a more squat face, but it doesn't end up looking powerful at all. It really just makes him look deformed, like a pug. Now it's time to address the elephant in the room. This Optimus is considerably smaller than his previous counterpart. It's not just the size either. Almost everything about this figure is simplified or reduced in some way or form. He only has a scant silver paint on his legs and shoulders, and his blaster's reduced to a gray slab of plastic. At least the Magnus repaint of this figure came with a cool sword. By comparison, Optimus's accessories are disappointing. Where the previous Prime had hinges and flaps and cool loaded detail, this figure has almost no visible kibble whatsoever. Some might consider this a positive, and talk to me on a good night and I might just agree, but to be frankly honest, it just makes this figure seem cheap. Considering these two were roughly the same price upon purchase, it's really hard to make a case for old Fall of Cybertron Prime here. After my last ranting lines, it's a bit odd to say that there's some elegant simplicity in this transformation. It's great fun to just switch this guy back and forth over and over again. He's a real desk toy, if you know what I mean. I just have him sit next to me when I'm doing some work, and I can play with him while I'm bored or waiting for a Zoom lecture to start. 9 out of 10. And now we enter vehicle mode. The blocky shapes of robot mode perfectly translate into this semi-truck vehicle. The developers of Fall of Cybertron stated in an interview that for this vehicle, they wanted to make it look like a fist on wheels, and I can honestly say they've done that to perfection. Honestly, it's almost unfair to compare Fall of Cybertron and War for Cybertron Prime's vehicles together. They're just so different. The same issues here as in robot mode. He's smaller, and he lacks the more refined paint of his older brother. I will say that I actually prefer the triple smokestacks of the truck more than the singular smokestacks the other one has, but yeah, overall these vehicles are so different it's hard to even properly compare them. So overall, what do I think? Which one is better? To be entirely honest, the answer isn't that simple. Now, looking at it objectively, the clear winner is War for Cybertron Prime. However, and it may just be nostalgia talking, but there's a serious charm to Fall of Cybertron Prime. I love his blocky chunks and simple design. He may be cheap in certain aspects, but his simplicity can be a bit comforting. However, if I had to choose one and destroy the other, then obviously I'd have to go with War for Cybertron Prime. In conclusion, if you have the opportunity, pick either of these up. If you're a fan of the War for Cybertron games, you'll love these. And if you aren't, they're both great figures that deserve a place in your collection regardless. Remember to like and share this video, and subscribe to my channel if you want my content injected directly into your feed. Well, my time here has been brief, but I can't say it hasn't been fun. See ya.